By show of hands, how many of you guys are here for the first time? Well, welcome. Queens Council on the Arts has been providing resources in the form of money and technical support to artists and art services organizations all across the borough of Queens for the past 50 years. We just celebrated our 50th year anniversary about 3 months ago. It was pretty awesome. A party, right? I'm the art services manager here, and what that means is I work with different artists and art services organizations to provide professional development and creative development programming here at QCA. Tonight is part of our lab program, and this is a program where artists and collectives and curators can come in and present works of art in progress. So whether you're a visual artist, a writer, performing artist, you can use this space. And you just have to submit your proposals. So for you artists who are looking for places to get feedback for your work, this is a great place to do that. Also, subscribe to our newsletter. You can go to our website at queenscouncilarts.org, and there, when you subscribe, you'll be on our newsletter and you'll find out about our professional development workshops that we have at least once a month. We offer everything from marketing for artists to financial planning for artists, all of the nuts and bolts of being an artist and an entrepreneur. And if you have any questions at the end, please feel free to ask me. Also, just so you know, we do give away money. We do give away grants. I think October 15th, I could be wrong, but check our website. I think October 15th is the deadline for our Queens Arts Fund grant program. There are 2 ways you can apply. One program is more art project specific, and one sort of art for art's sake. So if you're working on a project, you can get funding for it, you can apply for a grant. We have another one that's more based on art that has a community impact of some sort. And I think those grants will go up to $5,000. I could totally be misquoting. Lynn Lobel is our grants and resources manager. That's the person to reach out to if you have any specific questions. So without further ado, I'm going to let Aida and her crew rock the house tonight. I'm really looking forward to tonight's presentation, and I hope you guys are too. Woo!
I started this series 5 years ago, and I thought it was the longest running series in Queens. Where are you, Richard? I may stand corrected, we may be rivals with First Tuesday, but regardless, I'm so happy to be here because when I started this, I was begging writers to get up here and read, and I didn't realize the reluctance that writers had to read their work. I was very surprised. Here's this opportunity, please read. And so here I am 5 years later with Devin Doyle as one of my co-hosts. Audience and just a following that we now have, which I'm very proud of. And really, it couldn't be done unless it was in this borough, and I really do believe that. I've always felt that way. And for those of you who heard me speak about this before, one of the reasons I started this, if you haven't heard me speak about it, this is my explanation, is that Brooklyn felt very exclusive. Manhattan, I felt, catered to writers who were not emerging, but rather established, and so there wasn't that middle ground for emerging writers. And there is a submission process, of course, but it wasn't an open mic, and I just thought, what can I do, what can I create that any writer can feel comfortable submitting their work to me without being like, well, it's Brooklyn, and it's kind of, you know, they have their own niche, and it's Manhattan, and I don't have a hardcover that's been released in the New York Times bestseller list. So I started this, and I'm so happy to see all of you here. I'd like to introduce Susana Case as our first leader. Our newest book is Four Rooms with You, Mayapple Press, 2014. Author of 4 full-length poetry collections and 4 chapbooks, including the Scottish Cafe, which was re-released in a Polish-English version. Wow, can you say that for me? No, I can't. It's posted online. Sorry, where are my glasses? By Opal University Press. She is a professor at the New York Institute of Technology. Case spent the first 18 years of her life in Queens and lived there as well for several years in her 20s. Her new poetry manuscript in progress, Drugstore Group, contains a number of poems which reference those times. Please welcome.
Thank you, Aida. Thank you, Audrey. Thank you, Devin, who I haven't met before, and thank you, Queens Council of the Arts, and everyone for being here. So, I'm going to read some selections from my new manuscript. It's in progress till it's published. And I'm going to start with the title poem. What these poems have in common is they're about travel, but not really, although they're set in specific locations, a lot of them, they're not really about those locations, they're really about the journey. So here's the title poem. A lot of these poems are from the beginning of the manuscript and they address origins. So, haven't feel I'll always associate peaches with cheap jug wine, sickly wet on my tongue, and riding around in cars with groups of reckless boys. With you, your sweet tongue reaching to squirm in my mouth, your hand working the zipper of my jeans, my smile encouraging, my eyelids drugstore blue. The time the speedometer passed 90, I discovered I wasn't hooked on risk-taking after all. And maybe that pullback saved me from being another quiet Helen, science genius, we called her, who never wore makeup to cover her freckles, who shot too much smack and died one night, the rain unrelenting. Like the rain, the afternoon, I dug up the grave of the bird I buried to see if it had flown to heaven. Maggots were busy at work on the corpse in the puddling mud, and I ran screaming. When I saw you years after high school drooping outside the grocery, I wanted to rip at the ravage, to draw the rumpled clothes, your unfocused eyes. You're better off without me, I remember you cautioning. I was, but her words came out watery. All I could think of was Helen, carried off by the same wave. Young love for me meant fogged windows, fog everywhere, everything wet with wine, grief, or yearning. Old love means now and then I check the school's dead list. It keeps getting longer. You must be on it. You're never there. I was actually kind of shocked to discover that my high school had a dead list. And, I don't know how common that is. So part of Origins is family, of course, and this is a poem about family, and it's called Sorceress. It's in 3 parts. And maybe if Vivian hadn't gotten a headache that day, one that drilled into the back of her right eye, so that she no longer could stand the muffle and clack of her fellow office workers typing, she wouldn't have left early for home, wouldn't have found her husband naked in their bed with a woman she'd never seen before. She fled Brooklyn without a change of clothes, rang my parents' doorbell expecting to move in, at least to be invited up their too steep staircase for the night. No way, said my mother, hands on her hips, the Jezebel that Vivian hadn't wanted her brother to marry to. In 1905, Henry Darger was placed involuntarily in the Illinois Asylum for Feeble-Minded Children for too much masturbation. Later, he created watercolors, collage paintings of the virtuous Vivian girls, 7 intersexed princesses incorporated into a single-spaced 15,145-page manuscript. The day that Vivian rang the doorbell, I was listening to Snake Finger's song, The Vivian Girls, on his album, Chewing Hides the Sound, except it didn't. Vivian called my mother a bitch, howled in the doorway, long, loud, and hard. She scrunched up her red-stained dark eyes, yelled, "You can all die," and poof, vanished. 3. At the wedding of her grandson decades later, we're together again, Vivian muttering, spittle flying, my uncle silently seated at the table farthest away. She was always crazy as a tack, Vivian says of my mother, who isn't around anymore to correct her mixed metaphor. The name Vivian means alive, a curse that is her victory. She's outlived her brother too, moulders away with her daughter, who, fleeing a husband's beatings, is glad to have had her own curse lifted, resigned to have little choice but to take her in. So there's a lot of blue throughout this manuscript. Matt, who you'll be hearing later, has a book in which there's also a lot of blue. His poems are largely about art, and my blue references are often about cosmetics. This is called The Rare Blue. It was the year of blue eyeshadow stolen from drugstore displays, tubes stuck in the space between adolescent padded breasts. Blue was a carapace between violet and sage, eyelids the color of the deep violet sea. Hue, the infinity of Vishnu, sky figure, delft jarred, glazed to look like porcelain, Persian porcelain, King Tut's stained eyebrows on his funeral mask, the mask of my face as I walk from the store, my crew of girls casual behind me. We never got caught and never stole from small stores. The chain stores could sacrifice shadow the color of woad and indigo, cobalt, cornflower, ultramarine, lapis lazuli, azurite, small, Prussian blue, blue all the way to the brow, an eyelid, tin glazed, underglazed, Sankai lead glazed, oxide blue glazed, a glaze of blue, not born of the blues, but the antidote, spring blue, Felice blue, green dragon, constellation blue, occult knowledge blue, the eye of God. We were warriors protected by blue. To the bruise of blue, we caked on black liner, stacked layers of mascara, and strutted forth to the bowling alley, Cameo Lanes, to Eddie's sweet shop, into the fray. I'm not sure Cameo Lanes exists anymore, but Eddie's sweet shop, I believe, still does. So, at the time I was in high school, a very big, formative rock album was Pet Sounds. And this poem was inspired by the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds, and by my tendency in those years to cut classes. And this is called Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder, which is one of the cuts from the album. Beaches in New York City aren't like beaches in California. There are never as many blondes. My high school boyfriend knew how to dance. He could do the hanky-panky, and he knew how to reset the odometer in his father's Ford. Forget classes, we spent afternoons on Far Rockaway sand. I cram-tutored him for his Regents exam as he stumbled through English. I was the daughter of a literature teacher. He got to this country when he ducked under a fence and ran. Right before graduation, we walked for the last time along the water, looking at shells washed up by the tides. Being here with you feels so right, he sang. On the way over the Cross-State Bridge, Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder, had flowed out of the car radio. Not good to dance to, but with waves nuzzling our toes, he remembered all the lyrics, and his grammar was perfect. This one's for Vivian Westwood, the fashion designer, and it's called Beach Blonde with Spiked Floor Collar. I want the rhetoric, the lyric, the look. She has them all. Her coupe salage, cropped hair, tufted. She's an asymmetric tropical bird a long way from Tin Whistle. She names the Kings Road shop Sex, puffy pink letters, sells punk, bricolage, studs, chicken bones, nipple zips. Style icon, she pokes a subversive spoke into the system, sees the link between destroy on a t-shirt and Pinochet's defeat. but her punks want revolt just printed on the clothes. Fuck, 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 she insists when all they do is jump and spit. Hey, it's the 70s. We're each a princess from another planet. I want to stop traffic too in Chelsea, wearing bruise-colored makeup and a latex negligee. So I'm going to finish with two that are a little later in the manuscript after some more stuff has happened. This is called Hold Me Like You'll Never Let Me Go. It's another reference to song lyrics. It's from Peter Paul and Mary. In the street, I find an acoustic guitar, no name on it, so I decide it's mine and learn some chords from a pretty boy, 10 years younger, whom I retrieved from a Soho party. He plays in a garage band. He likes my long, iron straight hair, how I remove my clothes, their erratic cuts, easy to toss onto a chair. For a week, we don't leave the apartment. He makes no plans to go home, but home is Sweden, so that's understandable. I strum and roam through rooms feeling like a folk goddess. I'm leaving on a jet plane, I sing. You ever spend a whole week naked talking about nothing but folk rock? But then we run out of food, and being with him begins to seem like shoplifting. Take what you want just to see how it feels. And to end still life with failed marriage. Okay. Some of you listening to the last one are going to say, oh, well, I could have told you that. I lied, promised I would learn to drive a stick, which you couldn't do. Otherwise, you wouldn't fly to Oslo with me. When the green VW Bug stalled, then stalled again at the airport car rental lot with the likes of me and the stick, I cajoled you shamelessly into trying to drive it, then lied and promised I would love you forever. I got away with all of it because lying was habit, the sex was good, and you wanted to believe me, though you already suspected I couldn't possibly mean it. You hadn't yet fully learned how unreliable cars and women could be. Together, we marveled at fjords, read pamphlets on ice floe, skerries, visited medieval post and lintel wooden churches before that neo-Nazi rock musicians started arsoning them down. You wrestled that damn little car north because I dreamed of seeing reindeer, because you still wanted to please me. I lied and promised this was the best vacation ever, that when we got home, I would finally quiet down. Though I never did learn to drive stick, I did figure out that for me, going smoothly was the tricky part. It didn't require as much skill to come to a safe stop, just to press the clutch firmly, hit the brake. Thank you. I love Boundless Tales. It's one of my favorite reading series. This is the third time I'm reading for them, and I'm thrilled to be included in the anniversary event. One of the nice things for me about reading in Boundless Tales is that I grew up in Queens. I'm a Queens girl. I went to Forest Hills High School, and I went to Queens College. So I have my roots in Queens, and in fact, the manuscript that I'm going to be reading from tonight includes a number of poems that are set in Queens, so it's very nice to be trying out some of the poems from this manuscript in a Queens venue. I think Aida has been an incredible organizer of these events. I've read in, this is the third location I've read in for Boundless Tales. There was a cafe way back early. In the Boundless Tales series, and then the Boundless Tales moved to the bookshop, and I had read there also with some wonderful authors, and so this is a nice venue too. So, well, I think it's forced me to think more about Queens as a setting for poems that I had been doing previously. I think almost all of the poems that I have written that are set in Queens have been written since the first reading that I did for Boundless Tales. So I think there's been a way in which the series, and realizing that there's a very vital arts community in Queens, which there wasn't when I was growing up, forced me to think about some of the settings in which I did grow up and what I could mine from them for my own work. I'd like to thank Ida for all the work she does with Boundless Tales, and yes, and her own work, which is wonderful. I'd like to thank her for that too, her book, and for bringing us all together. I'm very excited to be reading with some of the people I'm reading with tonight, whose work I do know, and there are some names I don't know, so I'll be interested in hearing their work as well.
Thank you so much for reading. It was really enjoyable. Thank you. I am Devin Doyle. I am one of the co-hosts of Boundless, along with Ida and Audrey. Just to say a quick word about Boundless and what Boundless means to me, and probably what it means to so many of you who have read for Boundless. When I was a deeply lonely recent college graduate who moved to Queens, unemployed actor, Gmail chat was my only social connection. I'd go on these long walks through Queens at night, and I'd see the bridge, and I'd be in Astoria Park, and I'd think up these ideas for poems, these lines for poems, these linguistic tricks that I think would make me the next James Joyce. And, I would think of these, and I just wanted to share them. And Ida's series gave me the gift of feeling special for a short time when I was selected and I read in front of the people. And that's a very, very valuable thing for any artist, is to have that feeling, no matter how short or no matter how seemingly inconsequential, but to feel special, which is not the same as feelings or being successful or anything, but just feeling special for a short time. And Ida gave me that, and I think she gave a lot of readers here that, people who have read, people who are reading tonight, people who are here tonight who have read for Boundless. That's crucial for any artist, to have that feeling. And it's a very distinct feeling, and I treasure that deeply, so thank you. I just love Boundless Tales so much. It has a deep kind of history for me because it's basically my first experience as a writer was through Boundless Tales. I kind of picked up the pen one day, decided I should start writing poetry, and then I really got a momentum going, and then I said, I want to share this. How can I share this? What venue can I share it with? And I found Boundless, and it proved to be an invaluable part of my literary development. There's something so unconditional about it. There's no pretension about it. It doesn't have a kind of imperious connotation to it. There's no deep selective process where it's not judgy. It's just very open and welcoming to beginners, to a diverse array of writers, and I'm just so happy to have it in my life. And Ida, thank you for having Boundless, creating this gem. Thank you. So, another special artist in the Queens literary scene, Tim Fredrick. Tim Fredrick is a short story writer and author of the collection We Regret to Inform You. His stories have been published in Piff Magazine, Burning Word, M-Literary Magazine, Wild, and Circa. He is also the founding editor of Newtown Literary. Publishing the work of Queens writers and poets, and that is a thankless job, I am sure. That flame of inspiration can go dim really quickly. And it hasn't for him, and he's given us a gift with that publication. Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Fredrick.
Devin said, well, the things I wanted to say about Ida, except for the whole recent college grad, because that's far in the past. But I do think it's really important to reiterate the importance of Boundless Tales and the work that Ida has done across the Queens literary community. And I just like anyone who has read Boundless Tales and has been impacted the same way I have, and Devin has, just to raise their hand. And this is only only a very small fraction of the people that Ida has impacted. And I wrote a blog post about it on the New Townsbury blog, so you can go read that, because I have a lot more to say about the work she has done. So thank you. All right. So I'm going to read a piece. This is a work in progress. I worked on this story over the summer. I'm now in my revision stage, which is the Kill the Darlings stage. So you can look at here, we're in mid-massacre, taking things out. So actually preparing for this reading has been really helpful in that process, because I wanted to get to a certain point, but that was like 17 minutes long, so I just started to have to slash through. And I think it's a better draft as a result. So the piece is called The Death of Tommy Turner. It's important to note, first and foremost, that I don't forgive myself for what happened. There's no doubt it was my fault. There are reasons it happened, though. As I explain them to you here now, I want you to know that this isn't an excuse. It's an explanation, plain and simple. Tommy Turner and his family moved in upstairs for me on a warm August day. It was Tommy, his mother, her mother, and the grandmother's boyfriend. While the movers clumped up and down the stairs, Tommy played in the backyard with a bright yellow truck and several action figures. I sat at my drafting table in my back corner room, watching him pile all the action figures into the back of the truck and drive it around. He made loud vroom vroom sounds, overly masculine voice dialogue, explosions, gunshots, and all other manner of little boys' play. His brown hair in a floppy bowl cut that hung down just below his eyebrows became wet with sweat, eventually pasting itself to his forehead. He was delightful, 7 years old in every sense of the word. My wife had been pregnant but died giving birth to a stillborn boy. After, I poured myself into my work as an architect, and eventually I opened my own firm. I was proud of the work I did, giving homes to families who might not have otherwise been able to afford their own house. I hung up my T-square 9 months before Tommy Turner moved in upstairs. Tommy's mother, Tiffany, was a sweet woman who had gotten herself knocked down by a good-for-nothing guy who skipped town when he heard she was pregnant. She told me this the second time she invited me up for coffee, sitting at her kitchen table. The grandmother sat in a rocking chair in the living room and tissed with every plot point in the story. I felt really stupid, she told me, but she looked at Tommy playing in the living room near his grandmother. I couldn't have wished for a better result. You are very lucky, I told her. She never asked me about my history, which I was fine with. I always resisted telling people about my wife and child. The looks of pity, the tilted head, the squinted eyes. I liked that my conversations with Tiffany were always about Tiffany. The grandmother, who was probably 10 years younger than I, but looked 10 years older, was a piece of work. She was always around, lurking, with her grunts and her looks. She treated Tommy as horribly as she treated Tiffany, constantly calling him Thomas like he was in trouble. Every time she would bark his name, even when he hadn't done anything wrong, Tommy jumped. A few times when she was towering over him, yelling at him about something or other, she moved her hand and he instinctively winced. I knew in those moments what would have happened to Tommy if I hadn't been within an eye or earshot. The grandmother's boyfriend was almost never around. I assumed he was the family member who worked. He dressed like the guys in my construction sites dressed, and had the same determined look when he left in the morning and the same hunched shoulders at the end of the day. When he came home, that's when the yelling really started, usually between him and the grandmother. Boy, they were vicious with each other. He called her all manner of names, and she threw even worse language back at him, often insulting the size of his manhood. Dishes broke, feet stomped, doors slammed. Tommy escaped to the backyard when these fights happened, which was almost daily. Every once in a while, his mother would join him, nervously smoking a cigarette, overlooking his play. One day, as Tommy played in the backyard and fighting ensued above me, I sat at my drafting table, speckled sunlight dancing over a drawing that imagined a rundown factory up the highway as a community center. It was early October, his birthday just a few days prior, and he was playing with the T-ball set he received as a present from his mother. As he fruitlessly swung at the ball, sitting on the plastic tee, his swings became wilder and more erratic, until eventually he started hitting the ground with his bat over and over. After several swings at the ground, which had no effect on the cracked cement, he collapsed in tears. Tiffany was nowhere in sight. The grandmother and boyfriend were hurling profanities at each other upstairs. Tommy was alone, in the backyard, crying his eyes out. I got up from my drafting table and went to the screen door that led from my apartment to the yard. The screech of the door's spring got Tommy's attention, and he stood up, wiping tears from his eyes with the sleeve of his shirt. "Hi there, Tommy," I said. "Hi, Mr. Marcus," he said, sniffing back some snot. "Everything okay?" I asked. He shook his head up and down, clearly trying to prevent himself from crying again. I asked him if he wanted a little advice on how to hit the ball, and I gave him the same advice my father gave me. Feet a little more than shoulder width apart, not too tight on the bat, keep your eye on the ball. When Tommy swung again, me standing behind him, gently guiding his arms, the bat made contact with the ball, and which glided right into one of the windows in my backyard, thankfully not breaking it. Tommy jumped up and down, and I gave him a high five. I don't know if you have kids or not. I don't know much about you at all. But being able to make a kid who had just moments ago been crying at the injustice of it all literally jump for joy was like no other feeling I'd had. I fetched the ball from the bushes under my windows, set it again on top of the tee, and encouraged Tommy to try again. Time and time again he swung, made contact, and jumped up and down in celebration. Later that night, the fighting having calmed down and Tommy probably in bed, Tiffany sat on the steps that led from her apartment to the yard, chain smoking. I grabbed 2 beers and opened the screen door. Just as her son had been, she was alerted to my presence by the squeak of the spring. "Want a cold one?" I said, raising one of the beers in her direction. "Sure would," she said. Her cheerfulness was clearly put on. I sat down next to her on the stairs, handed her the beer, and watched as she effortlessly took the cap off by holding it against the edge of the railing and hitting it with the heel of her hand. I handed her mine and she took the cap off with the same swift motion. We clinked the tops of the bottles and each took a swig. "It must seem pretty bad to you, huh?" she said. "What do you mean?" I asked, a vain attempt at pretending I didn't know what she was talking about, why she was out there chain smoking. "Don't insult me," she said, wise to my attempt. "It is loud." "And mean," she added with a laugh. "That too," I said. "I know they're loud and they're mean, and it must seem like the most abusive family ever, but they really do love each other. And me," she said, "and Tommy. There's definitely a lot of passion there." What you probably don't hear is that they make up every single time. And by make up, you know I mean, I held in my hand, I know what you mean. That's just how they are. She took another swig, letting the beer slosh around in the bottle when she was done. Even with my father, but they were never mad at each other very long. She laughed as she took another swig. "Why aren't you like that?" I asked. "I mean, you don't seem so..." I couldn't find the right word without being offensive. "Passionate?" she added, elbowing me. "Yes," I said, "passionate." She shrugged her shoulders. "No idea." "Tommy's not like that either." "No, he's the quietest, sweetest kid." She shook her head. I think he's too young to understand that just because they're hooting and hollering doesn't mean they're mad at each other." If that was the case, I thought I was too young to understand it too. "He did seem upset today." "He was," she said. Another swig. She took 3 for every swig I took. "He told me what you did for him today." She put her hand on my forearm. I hadn't been touched like that in years. "Thank you." "My pleasure," I responded. He couldn't stop talking about it. He kept saying how he couldn't hit the ball, and then all of a sudden he could, and again, and again, and again. He just needed a couple of tips, that's all. We sat in silence as she continued to down her beer and smoke another cigarette. "I know with such passion coming from upstairs that you must think that Tommy's in danger, or that he might get hit." I put up my hand again. "Listen." She put her hand on mine and lowered it to my knee. Again, the softness of her hand disarmed me. "No, really, I'd never let that happen." I thought back to seeing Tommy flinch when his grandmother's hand twitched. I had been smacked around by my father. I knew that twitch. "Of course," I said, wondering if she was consciously lying or wasn't even aware of what might be happening. Sitting on the steps, both of us drinking, her chain smoking, became an almost nightly ritual for us. The conversation always centered on Tiffany or Tommy, never on me. I like to think that she began to think of me as a father figure, just as I had come to think of her as a daughter. That's the first third of the story. So thank you very much for listening.
What edition of, or what publication number, I don't know, correct terminology, but of Newtown. What issue number?
We're putting together issue 9 right now.
Issue 9. 5 years for us, issue 9. Does anybody have like a wedding anniversary? I mean, milestones here. Thank you so much.
It's a real honor to be part of this anniversary reading. Boundless Tales was the first reading I ever did of my work in February of 2012. So it's quite an honor to be invited to read now, and I think that Boundless Tales has done so much for the community that I'm happy to celebrate with them. I think that first time I was invited to read, having my friends and family come, and also reading in front of strangers, it was really the first validation I had as a writer. So it encouraged me, it made me feel like, oh, I really could do this thing. I really could be a writer, with all the difficulties that are included in that. But just having your writing sort of go out into the world can just be a very validating thing. Ida, I think, has had an incredible impact on myself and other writers like me and the Queens community in general. She's definitely a testament to when you do small things, they ripple outwards. And as the editor of Newtown, I've definitely seen people submit to us because they have read Boundless Tales or heard from Boundless Tales. And I've even said before that I don't know that I would have started Newtown Literary if the community that I found at Boundless Tales wasn't there and didn't show me that there was something really special happening here in Queens. So what I would like to say to Ida is thank you for everything you've done for me, for Newtown Literary, and for the Queens literary community.
Cool. So next up, we have Shakira Croce, and she is a writer. She's a Georgia native after studying writing at Sarah Lawrence College and completing a master's at Pace University. She currently works as the Communications and Public Relations Manager for a not-for-profit health plan, Amida Care. Croce's poetry translations have appeared in Babel magazine, and recently her poetry has been featured in the New Ohio Review, HIV Here and Now Project, Poets, Artists, Transactions, okay. Ducks.org and the Red River Review. Shakira Croce, everybody.
Thank you so much to Boundless Tales and to Ida and Devin and Audrey for creating and fostering such a beautiful series that's so important for Queens to have. I'm really honored to be a part of it. The first poem I'm going to read is called The Remains. With a pink sundress on a hazy August afternoon, she waves him over to what's left of her porch. Already looking her way through fireflies starting to blink between sprinklers, he jogs to her hopelessly, rubbing sunscreen on his burnt chest. Would you help me pick through this? She motions to cardboard boxes, holding the remains of yesterday's fire. Pieces of china, her miniature collection, photo albums, notebooks buried in dark gum. She wants him to tell her they can't be saved. Her mother's sugar bowl, a white cat, hasn't been found. The wall by the corner cupboard went down first. It could have been worse, he says, scratching soot off a porcelain doll, trying not to look at her nipples lightly covered in cotton, which wouldn't have surprised the parents on their street of Confederate flags who whispered about her black fingernails and mesh covering too much cleavage. Before graduation, they talk into the night about moving to the Capitol, made to live closely, even room together, taking turns making dinner, mixing their colors and whites. On the train home one day, a careless passenger might push her nylon thighs into him. Instead, they found work in town and settled at home, wondering how the fire could have started. Until she changes the subject to their childhood. He gave her his red balloon once, on her 5th birthday when her purple one flew out the window. But as soon as she took hold of the string, a gust of wind ripped it out of her hand and up into the sky. It was the first time the two of them, after a pause, stopped and looked, deep and breathless, into each other's eyes and laughed. So I work as a communications manager for a nonprofit health plan for people living with HIV. And this June marked 35 years since the first cases of AIDS were reported. So I wrote this poem with that in mind. Our song. Empty cars held us in the pale gray turning to square lights of the city. The ambulance driver steps out, tapping ashes on Park Avenue. It came from Desert Storm, and you keep it still stamped, colors faded and oblivious, lying next to a half-empty pillbox. You choose the music tonight. It's as simple as offering protection from a line on the rise and another CDC report failing to remind us it's no longer a death sentence. Sometimes we can forget it all, put our song on repeat and dance, swinging arms around each other, hearts beating wildly. There's a greater communication in that movement of the hip, straighter than a needle and wider than a lover's exhale to reach the knee. This one's called Venus Out on the Town. Yes, you may buy me a drink. It has been a long week for me too. At work trading, you said? No, you haven't had much experience in social enterprise. Isn't it great to live in a country where you and your partners can pull such fine bootstraps? One of the brightest in the night, yes, I've been told I have a nice smile, among other things. Your lines show in a few more years, your advances will be harmless, cute even. Thank you for the champagne. What did you say your name was? You were telling me something about your problem with being unable to find a good dry cleaner for your white button-down. Yes, I'll have another. About your travels in Italy, did you see the naked Sabine, captured in marble by so many chiseled arms, as she reaches above her alabaster gas into the open air? You were telling me something. She was much younger anyway. She told you it was over. You drink too much. No wonder you can't get it up. Sorry, that was a cheap shot. I don't know why it can be so defensive. Never mind. You were telling me something. I feel like it involves pills or dollars and seeking counsel. Of course you had no idea. Excuse me, I don't mean to leave now, when we've just met and you've bought me so many drinks. It's just that the French student across from us, I've been eyeing, with the carnation lips and bud over his heart, has just gone to smoke, and I wondered what I'm missing. Maybe because there's something about this time of night ebbing like foam on the sea. So, wouldn't know this was the last poem, but I got married a couple of weeks ago. I wanted to share the poem I wrote for my husband that I read during our ceremony. We step forward with one deep breath, light as fingers changing keys, to dance down cobblestone or ride up mountain trails, finding our space to labor and rest, habits forming and unfolding together in our home. Remembering the time we stood on pale boulders by the winter Hudson shore, returning always to the great blue between us. This is called The Eye of the Storm. October sun down through magnolia's petals, onto weathered hands working into night. She sat rocking, weaving royal blue into a doormat for their daughter's home, trying to remember the spelling of her new last name. Yesterday, colonial pillars on the front porch cracked, red mud poured into the valley, and the weeping willows split open. The family next door asked her to leave with them for higher ground, but she said her daughter would take her, intently unraveling thread, as she does when telling a lie. Her mind was on the storm that had come for her before, when she was young and stayed inside. This time, once the neighbors left, she sat out to wait in the great still gray. And, as the empty fields around her began to tremble, she let the needles rest deep into the thick pink lines on her palms, wondering up at the dare to rip open the sky. The last poem I'm going to read is one of my post-read research. I'm working towards finalizing these and publishing my first collection of poetry. Break from the headline. Leaving time on the end table, the mother went out with the neighborhood to watch them bring down the oaks. Strings from the block party still clung to their limbs, winter morning light giving their naked dark brown a faint purple glow. Someone on the street called in the professionals, who roped each one to the ground, saying, "There's no way to know how long. Some have been standing there, already dead, even more dangerous than the living." Readying the blade, they struck quickly, bark splattered towards the others, leaning back with the weight of their bodies until metal hit the core. Without a pause, they cut in deeper, when, louder than a gunshot, the first fell. The next one, younger, dropped faster. Too many to count, splintered, and collapsed down the pavement like thunder. Then, a hush. Save for the toddler, who no one heard had been wailing. It was then the mother realized a tear had broken from her lower lashes, running to rest on her cheek. She had been out there with the others in the cold, too long to notice. I'm really honored to be a part of the anniversary event. I first read Boundless Tales last year, and it's such a wonderful, welcoming group, and I'm really proud to be a part of their 5-year anniversary. It really helped me be able to be comfortable with reading, because that's totally different than writing, so actually speaking. Congratulations, Ida, and thank you so much for inviting me and for creating and fostering such a beautiful series.
Hi guys. It's so beautiful to see you and familiar faces and folks from the Queens Lit community that we often don't get to see each other in the same place. It's beautiful to be in this because that's what this is all about. So I want to wax poetic about balance for 5 seconds. A lot of things have happened in my life since I met Ida in October 2011, which was the second month of Boundless, right? And so Ida gave as the Zumba is happening, right? You guys hear that? Echoing Devin's sentiment and Tim's sentiment and so many of our sentiments, he gave me the shot. Boundless was the first reading series that I ever read for, and I got to know Ida, and she trusted me with her baby to host. Whoa. So, as you can see, but so much has happened since then in my life as a writer, who's lit, and meeting all these people. And the people that I met through Boundless, meeting Ida and Devin, this is the foundation of everything that I do now. I hadn't really performed since high school, and getting back out there, becoming my writer self, and because of Ida, because of Boundless, because of meeting these people. So it's you always have to look back, give thanks, and remember. Always remember Boundless, and remember you, and remember Waltz, Astoria, the late great, and all these amazing folks. So thank you, Ida. Thank you for giving me the shot, and Devin the shot, and all of us the shot. So, we're in a picture together. Our next writer, Matthew Thorburn, is the author of 6 collections of poetry, including Dear Almost, which will be published in September, this one, by Louisiana State University Press. His previous books and chapbooks include A Green River in Spring and This Time Tomorrow. He's currently working on a new collection of poems called Never Going Back Again, as well as a long poem called Midtown. He lives in the Bronx and works in corporate communications in Manhattan. Please welcome Matthew.
Thank you so much. I want to also thank Ida and Audrey and Devin and all of you. I'm going to read just a couple of poems from this new project, Never Going Back Again. And this really got started with poems that I wrote kind of on the side as I was doing other things. The book that Audrey mentioned, Dear Almost, which actually just came out Monday. There's one long book-length poem, and so as I was working on that, I was sort of thinking of other things that weren't part of that and writing these other shorter poems and kind of put them to the side. I'd done that previous to that as well, and I kind of went and looked at these poems later on and saw that they actually were all kind of about similar things that have to do with China, both sort of in the past and the present, how those two states of that culture kind of in conflict sometimes, and then also about different ideas of spirituality and about faith and losing faith and trying to find a way and things like that. And so those kind of, I think, go together. I'm kind of figuring out how that all fits together, but these are a few more recent poems that have to do with those themes that I think are part of that project. This first poem is called Like Hours of Rain on Piles of Brown Leaves. If this cloud gray bell's so old, no one's allowed to ring it anymore, is it still a bell? Is the forbidden city open to anyone all day, really still forbidden? All mysteries solved, all bodies identified by the patterns of metal in their teeth, and I'm drowning in facts and relics, in maps and audio guides and directions for all the ways you can get there from here. Severe clear, pilots call it. Days when you can just see and see and see. But don't get too lofty here. Only my eye doctor, Zach, gets to speak of vision. Did you know Tutankhamun had his heart wrapped in cloth and placed in a little wooden box when he died? Who wouldn't sometimes wish to set your heart aside and close that lid? Call it the grace of distance, a starry sky unseen above the pyramids buried in sand. Words plus temples. That's how the Chinese get to poetry in their language. And love is happiness, said twice. In one day, Jay's ginkgo lost all its leaves, still green, cloven like paper hearts. Do you believe your heart sometimes leaves your body and then comes back? The swallows must have built their nest beneath the eaves next door, because under and up, all afternoon they keep disappearing, which leaves only me, a weatherman here to tell you what to watch out for, a watercolorist with my handful of brushes, my cup of water gone cloudy gray. These next three poems are poems that I drafted it was about a year and a half ago. I was in something that's called the 30-30 Project. I don't know if you've heard this, but Tupelo Press runs this as a fundraiser, but also as a way to encourage people to write a poem every day for a month. It's 31 days. I did it in February, so it took 28 days. But it's something that I've also done once before. I really recommend, if you haven't done it, to try writing every day, especially if you're a poet, you can just write sort of draft a poem a day. Because it really, for me at least, it really helped me to sort of get over being procrastinating or being in any kind of writer's block or something to do it. And then also it sort of really helps to turn off your internal editor, just write something, and then you go back to it later and revise and see what you have. So these are three poems that got started with that. This is called Gray Light on an Unmade Day. The priest with his collar unhooked steps out back for a smoke, while the little gray dog marks his territory, sniffs for anything new worth smelling. He wears the same name as the old gray dog who died. Today's a lucky or unlucky day. Who decides? Could it be yellow lilies wrapped in last week's newspaper, or just an old fish? The church doors closed that business done for today. Thanks, but no thanks, Uncle Jerry would say, tapping ash into his ashtray. We watched the snow fall all afternoon, gray light on an unmade bed. A blessing. A few words whispered at dusk, just to us. How little it takes to make it one thing, not the other. Once I set a small brass bell in a hollow place inside a tree, just so someone could find